Now, in light of Iran's reported involvement with Hamas terrorists in Israel, the left is now spinning itself in circles trying to defend the Biden administration's decision, just like during the Obama years, in this case, to unfreeze $6 billion in Iranian assets as part of a prisoner swap. They got 5 prisoners in exchange. And then, of course, you have circle back propagandist Jen Psaki sparring with Republican Congressman Mike Lawler over the weekend. At the end of the day, Iran is $6 billion richer. Clearly, she doesn't understand what fungible means either. Take a look.
The Biden administration released $6 billion in sanctioned Iranian funds. The problem is, Jen, when you do that, money is fungible. And so Iran is able to shift other resources that it otherwise would not have been able to do to help fund terrorism. They are the greatest, with all due respect, Jen,
I'm going to stop you right there, Congressman, because what you just stated is inaccurate. The funding, Congressman, the funding does not go to Iranian hands. It goes to approved third-party vendors who provide humanitarian support. I did want to ask you, though, Congressman, because the Trump administration also...
With all due respect, Jen, with all due respect, you're not listening to what I just said.
She wasn't. Meanwhile, Congressman Darrell Issa spoke with Fox Digital while traveling in the Middle East, saying this is, quote, clearly Iran's war with Israel, before warning of a prolonged conflict. Anyway, Congressman Mike Lawler and Darrell Issa join us now with much more. Congressman Lawler, I watched this exchange and I'm like, how thick and dumb does a person really need to be? Because for you to have to explain that Joe Biden gave $6 billion in additional funding to the Iranians. Okay, the money is now out of South Korea. It's in a Qatari bank, or it's in Qatar somewhere. That money, even the president of Iran went on NBC and admitted we're not going to be told how to spend this money. And your point about it being fungible, that's $6 billion that they don't have to spend on anything humanitarian themselves, which frees up more money for the #1 state sponsor of terror. How hard is that to understand?
Look, clearly she thought she was at the podium trying to spin for the president. But look, I denounced this in August when it was first announced. I denounced it on September 11th when the administration officially informed Congress about it. And I denounced it 2 weeks ago when we had a hearing on the Taylor Force Act. These folks are clueless. Giving Iran, the biggest state sponsor of terror, $6 billion is absolutely dangerous, and it never should have happened. The administration should immediately reverse course and refreeze those assets.
Yeah. Let me ask you, Darrell Issa, I know you spoke to FoxNews.com about a confidential location in the Middle East where you were traveling when Israel came under attack, and that you were within a combined missile range, more from Iran. Let's talk about the Iranian, aspect and influence in all of this terror, because they're fighting proxy war after proxy war, funding terrorist group after terrorist group. Nobody seems to ever want to call them out on it. And I can't for the life of me understand this obsession to help the Iranians get richer, so that will just, accelerate their terror campaigns around the world.
Well, Sean, you're exactly right. It's hard to understand, but we've seen it again and again. We saw it throughout the Obama administration. But in fairness, we probably saw it with Chamberlain equally just before World War II, placating fascists, placating terrorist states is not new. The problem is it never works. And whether that $6 billion is fungible or not wouldn't even matter. The symbolism of lessening sanctions, of negotiating about nuclear, of treating them like they were something other than what they have been since 1979, which is a terrorist state who wants to expand their Shia extremism everywhere in the world, and they do it by force. That's the reason Hamas comes over the border. Remember, Sean, Hamas is a Sunni group. The reason that they are backed by like Hezbollah is because they're willing to fight and kill Israelis. The little evil, the big evil, the little devil, all these terms they use are part of an organized campaign that has worked for them
they
since
don't care if it's Shia or Sunni. As long as they hate Israel and the United States, that's all that seems to, qualify them to get aiding and abetting. But they also apparently were involved in the planning of all of this as well. Your reaction to that?
They clearly did a go-ahead. There's a number of meetings that we're aware of that occurred between the key players. And obviously, Hezbollah's leader is at the center of it, too. And look, we're seeing the two-front situation. You have a massive amount of Israeli troops that are trapped on the northern border that can't come to the aid of their allies and colleagues in the south. And that's because Hezbollah shells just enough to keep them from being able to be redeployed. That's part of a plan. That plan was, and the equipment came from Iran. And until Israel obliterates Hamas, and in fact, until Hezbollah has its claws removed, and until we take the threat of Iran seriously and continuously, we're not going to get there. One of my meetings in the region was with the Crown Prince in Saudi Arabia. He is in the final stages of coming up with a comprehensive regional peace plan that includes Saudi Arabia. He has a problem. The problem is Iran at every step is trying to stop, thwart, or delay that. We have to make sure that we make it clear that we're going forward with the next stages of the so-called Abraham Accords. I don't care what their name is. We want the Arab world and the Muslim world to denounce Iran and to join all of us, including Israel, in pushing back once and for all against this state that since 1979 has been, in fact, fomenting terrorism.
And Congressman Lawler, we only got about 30 seconds yet. Ransom for hostages never seems to work out very well, does it? 5 hostages, $6 billion. And what do we have now tonight? Over 100 hostages, including Americans, according to reports. Do you see any way to get them home safely? Because I really don't.
Look, you don't negotiate with terrorists. And I think we need to be working with the Israeli government and military to take on the extremists in Hamas and Iran at all costs.
All right, Congressman Lawler, Congressman Issa, thank you.